Welcome to Joy in Our Town, and I'm your host, Bishop Mitchell Taylor. And our issue today is minorities. And we have as our guest Antonio Milani, Executive Director of Immigration Advocacy Services in Astoria, Queens. Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys do in Astoria.
Sure. We're an immigration outreach center, which basically means that if a person comes into our country or marries an individual and would like to get them legal, they need to do a lot of paperwork, and they usually come to us for citizenship, adjustments of status, getting a green card, renewing a green card, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges for minorities in New York City?
I think that the challenges for immigrants and minorities are the same that face everybody. When you live in New York, it's all about trying to make a living, fitting into our society culturally, and it's a big attraction. New York is one of, obviously, world capital, and people come here wanting to be New York or wanting to be Americans, and of course, the biggest hurdle is going through the immigration process.
Mm-hmm. Why New York? I mean, I have a guy that comes here from Virginia,
right.
And he comes in, and when he visits me, he says, "Take me to the lights."
Right.
He wants to go to Times Square, but why New York?
I think for the same reason that I mentioned earlier, because it's a world capital. Everybody knows New York. I can go to the smallest corner of the world, and they'll know where New York is, or they'll have an idea about New York. And I think people are always attracted to the bright lights, and we can use that metaphorically. This is the place to be. The Frank Sinatra song is exactly right. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And I think not only Americans, but immigrants as a whole feel that if they're here, they're at the top of the world.
Now, do you often hear the immigrant story that if I get to America or get to New York, the streets are paved with gold? Where did that come from?
That doesn't last very long. Immigrants, have felt that to a certain degree, but the reality hits very quickly that it is a place where you can find work, and I think that's where the streets are paved with gold. A lot of people come from areas where there are no jobs, there is nothing, no future economically or socially. So they come here, and even finding something where they had nothing before is a big step up.
Well, we know that this city especially was built by immigrant population.
Right.
Can you give us some statistics about the immigrant population here in New York City?
Sure. As you mentioned, our city is probably the biggest port outside of California, obviously, in Texas and Florida, but it is the biggest port and the most diverse. I can tell you that right now. Last year we helped people from 122 different countries to come, and
122 different countries.
That's just in the 1 year. Each year it's about the same.
And then in our borough, Queens, we have 139 different, right?
Exactly.
Nationalities represented.
And about the last census said that about 47% of Queens residents are foreign born. Now, that's a high number.
Yes.
But citywide, I think it's down. It's about a third. So a third of the population was born somewhere else and came here to make it better, I would assume.
Wow. I know you have some fabulous tips. I'm doing some research on your website. Can you just give folks some tips? You have some tips, I'm sure, that can help folks that really want to get through that process.
One of the biggest problems is that immigration is fraught with people who don't know what they're doing, and they're usually, if they're trying to commit fraud, immigrants are easy patsies because, one, they might not speak the language, they don't know how we work. And a lot of foreign countries, if you bribe somebody, that's the way to go. Whereas here, that's not going to fly. But they use that as a hook, and they get people in. For example, if you speak a certain language or from a certain country, you'll deal with those people, and they'll trust you because you're from that country. They don't know any better. And they get taken because years ago especially, immigration used to take so long to adjudicate a case that when they got their work card, immigrants thought that they had already gone through the system, where they hadn't. So if they married fraudulently or if they filed labor papers that were fraudulent, they didn't know until a year or two later when they went to the immigration office and the guy said, this is not real, this is a fraudulent case. And fraud is a forever bar. In other words, if you commit fraud, whether someone else does the papers for you, it's your signature, your picture, your application. So it comes back to bite you, and that's a lifetime bar. So it's a very, very dangerous, situation.
That is something.
scary.
And so what you guys are doing, I mean, you're a nonprofit, you're providing these services free, I think, and
Free,
or
low-cost services, free consultations all the time,
Right,
walk-in
right.
service. And we tell people, before you do anything, as important as becoming a citizen, getting a green card, even just renewing anything, God forbid deportation, what are called removal proceedings, always get a second or third opinion before you file. Do not walk in blind. And don't trust that one person, because they may or may not know. I'm not saying they're bad necessarily, but they may not be the right person.
so you're saying that when seeking out immigrant services, do more than one. You should
Exactly.
look into maybe 2 or 3, just as
Right.
if you're getting bids to buy something.
Or if you're going to a doctor and you're not quite sure and you want to get a second opinion, why not? This is the most important aspect of your life outside of getting married and having a family and buying a home. Immigration is very, very important. And if you make a mistake, the government does not forgive. They don't say, oh, we understand. They go after you because that's what they're supposed to do.
Even though the government knows that there are a lot of fraudulent agencies that file on behalf of people that don't have fluent English proficiency, and they're taken advantage of.
A lot of times, especially in the last 5 or 10 years, there's been a sea change and the government has gotten on board where they actually have been going after these people, and they have prosecuted, especially our governor now. He was our Attorney General, Andrew Cuomo.
Yes, yes.
His office was instrumental in going after a lot of these guys, and it really shut down a lot of people.
Right.
And the government itself, USCIS, now, instead of taking 3 years for an interview or something, it's less than 3 to 6 months. That cuts the window that someone can promise you the world and not deliver. So in being more efficient, it stopped a lot of the fraud because, and the local office is fantastic. They're much, much better than they used to be in time frame and getting people answers, something called InfoPass, where you can go in right now and have an appointment to see immigration, whereas prior to that, 5,000 people online in immigration was a common sight around the corner at 26 Federal Plaza. That's non-existent now.
And they didn't make appointments then. You just waited in line.
You went at 3 a.m. and you got in, let's say, 10 a.m., so you were waiting 6 hours online. Winter, summer, fall, it didn't matter.
Well, you're located in Astoria.
Yes, we are.
It's really centrally located for the 5 boroughs. Give us those tips. Someone's watching, maybe a family member is watching that has, a cousin or aunt or a sister that needs to start this process. What can you tell them to help them kind of easy pass through this very arduous system?
That's a very good point, Easy Pass. And I love Easy Pass because it does make it easier. You don't get stuck at that gate. And this gate is a very dangerous place to be because if you don't make it through, it's not about paying $1.50 or now $10.
Right.
It's about losing your chance for the future. So if you're going to go to an agency or an individual, it boggles my mind to see that people have gone to a place where it's a second floor, someone who has one computer, and they go there and they don't ask any questions about your qualification or anything. Ask. Find out how long they've been in business. Make sure you get a receipt. Always, always get a copy of what you filed. Do not sign blank papers.
Should we look for like a business license on the wall?
What I would do is certainly that. Get a card, get a license, figure out, who are you dealing with. For example, there are large agencies like Catholic Charities, and there are, Lutheran Services, and there are smaller agencies that are also legitimate. But there's these shysters, if you will, that look, and they may look great, but if you do a little digging, you'll help yourself a lot.
Okay, excellent. What's some more tips?
Some more tips are always pay with a personal check. Everybody says money orders, but it's a personal check because...
Why do they always ask for money orders? Because I've had that experience.
That's very true. Everybody says money orders are safe, right? But they're safe for the person cashing and not for you because you don't get a copy of that, but you do get a copy of a personal check. And that is a record. If the DA wants to go after these people and they ask you, give me some paperwork, probably the only thing that you'll have is some copies perhaps, but you'll have that check that was cashed either fraudulently by someone else and they took it and changed it. So now there's proof. So always pay with a personal check. Always deal with a person, get their name, get their, like you said, if there's a license on the wall, get numbers, make sure there's an address. For heaven's sakes, the people go and I ask them, where was it? And they say, Jamaica. And I say, you don't remember where in Jamaica? No, I got off the subway, I make a right and a left. Realize where you are and where you, because when these places close up and you want to find them, if enough people can prosecute, then authorities will go after them. But if it's you saying that I did something and they can't find me, and you don't remember where even I was, that's a very dangerous thing to do.
Wow.
So outside of that, I think if someone, very important, if someone promises, and you've just told them that you can't do it, and I've told them I can't, but they go to someone else and they say, yes, I can do it, it's probably not good advice, but they will promise to fix things for upfront fee. That's a dead giveaway. Never give anybody a lot of money up front for something that you know is not going to fly. But people want to feel that. So they actually, even when they kind of know, they'll pay hoping, and that's not going to go.
So you said something that's very important because cultural norms dictate for immigrants that they can pay their way through from where their perspective, from where they come from. So when they come here, you know, one tip you're giving us now is that don't pay a lot of money up front.
Exactly right.
What should a person typically expect to get hit with when they sit down first time going into an immigration office for assistance obtaining a green card?
That's a very good question. And private attorneys, for example, charge a lot more because private attorneys can.
Right.
As a nonprofit, obviously our fees are going to be much lower. But anywhere, whether it's a free service or you're low cost or high cost, people can understand right away that the quality of the service is important, and they have to look at what they're being told. So immigration fees are on their website. Go on their website first. See what you're supposed to be paying. So if somebody tells you something different, you know right away. Ask, write everything down. Do not rely on your memory.
Exactly. So now we have about a minute left.
Sure.
What would you say, well, actually maybe about 35, 40 seconds.
Okay.
What would you say to a person that has gone to an agency, they didn't read the fine print, they couldn't understand, they're jacked up, they're messed up, you said it's irreversible, it's their responsibility.
Right.
How do they straighten that out?
First thing that they should do is come to our offices or bona fide agencies, and we can help them file a complaint through the DA's, through the AG's office, through immigration itself, and that helps a lot. And Consumer Affairs has helped us a lot in getting people's money back. So if you go to a place like Dynamic Duo, why people go to a place named the Dynamic Duo, honestly. But then come to us, we'll make sure that case was fraud, because sometimes it isn't. There are 10 years waiting lists. But get that opinion, come to our offices, show us the paperwork, and if we feel there's a case there, we can help you get your money back, or at least show the government that you weren't involved in the fraud.
Excellent, and they can reverse that or begin to work on reversing that for you.
If they see that this person has done this to hundreds of other people, obviously that's a much better case to prosecute than one-on-one.
We got 20 seconds left. What would you say to a person that just came from Dominican Republic,
Let's just say, right.
And they're here now, 21 years of age, they have no family, no friends, and they want to become a citizen. What do they do?
Well, that's when you really need an expert's help, because you want to make sure that somebody doesn't promise you the world and does not deliver. Come, ask the questions, be certain of who you're dealing with, and try to avoid fraud.
All right, we got 5 seconds left. Thank you so much.
My
I mean,
pleasure.
this is really awesome, because we need to make sure people are not taken advantage of in this economy and get the help they need. Well, thank you so much for being enjoying our town.
Books about marriage.
You know, marriage makes me think of sports. You know, teamwork, dedication.
Okay, let's see what people say.
Let's say your marriage is a sport. What sport would it be?
Oh, what sport?
Basketball.
Surfing, because we've been riding the wave for so long.
It have to be a team sport.
Definitely teamwork.
Ice hockey.
Baseball, it lasts a long time and not a lot happens.
Ping pong.
So why ping pong?
Always on our toes, but relaxed and fun.
Maybe doubles tennis.
So there's a lot of back and forth.
A lot of people watching.
So how many people are influenced by your marriage?
Hundreds?
Yeah.
I think we could easily fill a football stadium with all the people that we've influenced. And you really think about the ripple effect.
One influences the next and the next and the next. It's like a wave.
So it looks like a good marriage touches a lot of people.
Exactly. A good marriage goes a long way.
Want to improve your marriage? For ideas, go to foryourmarriage.org. A message from the Catholic Church.
Come on, man.
Just do it quick. No one's watching. have to if you want to hang with us.
The other one, too?
Good job.
Do the right thing. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm Bishop Mitchell Taylor, your host, and we're joined today with some special guests, no strangers to TBN, but to Joy in Our Town. But we want to introduce them again. Gene and Marsha Red, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Welcome.
Awesome work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And the issue we'll be talking about today is families. And I know that you guys are experts of sorts with family counseling, marriage counseling, and you've been on the show before. And I know last time we kind of delved into what were the real structural problems that arise in marriages and what's the major cause of the breakdown. But I just want to kind of deal with maybe some perspective or some color on how big is the problem?
Yeah.
How big is the marriage, family breakdown problem in America today?
Well, it's very big, and it's actually very prevalent. And what we're finding in our engagement with couples is that they're hurting, they're in pain, they're in travail, and there's just a general sense of struggle with married couples, many married couples. But what we have found is that most couples in certain situations will choose divorce, unfortunately, as an option, as a viable option. And it's interesting because divorce is literally an external solution to an internal problem. So we always tell the couples that if you are having issues, don't look for, it's like suicide. Suicide is an external solution to an internal problem. You don't deal with the external problem or the internal problem by creating external application. You deal with it from the inside out. So what we do is we invite folks to bring life into their relationship, to breathe life in a way that's transformative and wholesome to the relationship.
Right. Now, you and your wife, president, vice president of Mentoring Marriage Ministries, and what percentage of people do you see that engage in counseling that actually wind up saving their marriage? I mean, what does that look like? Is it greater on the save side after an intervention with you? I mean, we would like to think that, but I mean, what does it look like? I mean,
we've had great success with people that have seen us as well as seek other support. I think that when you deal with some of the real tough issues that occurs in a marriage, for example, infidelity, that you do need that third party. And I do believe it's a high percentage of couples that are being saved utilizing that third party.
So you're saying that, all right, that leads us somewhere else then. And you mentioned, we were right there. Let's stay right here in the kitchen. Infidelity. I mean, why do we want to skate this issue and act like, well, we're not talking, we're not vibing, I think I heard you guys talk about some of the interference because of the social networking platforms now, and using the social networking platform is really not what we think it is. It's a relationship with the network. Tell us about infidelity. I mean,
infidelity is just one of the worst things that could happen in a relationship.
Why? Explain to our viewers why infidelity is one of the worst things that can happen in a relationship.
Because it shatters the foundation of the marriage. It really shatters it. So you have to begin from scratch to rebuild the marriage.
And it's a breach. It's a breach in the relationship. It's a breach in the covenant. It's a breach in the connection, the union. And it's very tough because once you deal with the transgression. Now you've got to deal with the residual effects of the transgression on family members, on yourself, how you work through those issues with trust issues and such things of that nature. It's important that when you confront an issue such as infidelity, that you sort of deep dive and deal with the me issues, the things that have impacted us and how we continue to go forth and carry forth our the integrity of our relationship.
Now, traditionally, you know, when I was growing up, if I heard of infidelity and breaking of a covenant, it was usually the man cheating on the woman, the husband cheating on the wife. Is that dynamic changing today?
I don't know that if
does the data bear out?
It existed back then. It really probably existed back then.
Yeah.
I think you do have, I don't know if I should say as many, but a high percentage of women that are going out there too.
Yeah. And
Would you say it has increased, Doctor, over the last 20 years?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like my wife said, the dissatisfaction, you know, may have years ago, and maybe because of social norms, you know, as apt to come out. But because of the change in education, the parallels in men and women in terms of the workforce, the labor force, and some of the things that are empowering women, it's allowing them to sort of take a stance. And sometimes, though it's a good thing that women are continuing to grow and become more dynamic in the workforce, sometimes the history of some of the issues of abuse or maybe some of the issues of mistreatment carry forth into the relationship in a negative way.
But let's deal with this. Usually, if a man steps out on a woman, he wants to be forgiven. And, you know, usually, if it's a reasonable woman with a reasonable amount of forgiveness, they will forgive, right? But when it's the other way around, the woman steps out on the man. Speak to that. Why is that so difficult? It's the same breaking of covenant.
Yeah, I mean, I think the man is grappling with his sense of identity. We always say that man, more than anything, wants to feel confident. And it's not so much, and I know I've argued with the brothers over the years about this, but it's not so much of them being confident, but it's about feeling confident. And we say that, you know, if a wife does something to really hurt her husband's self-esteem, that really breaches the very core of who he is, because he feels like he's lost competency. He feels like he's not adequate. So a man is more apt to look at who he is and say, what, you know, forget about this. I'm going to just get rid of her anyway because of his machismo, because of his willingness to just try to throw it away. But the reality is he's hurt.
Yeah.
He's hurt.
And in addition to that, when we get married, we take on our husband's name.
Yeah.
So when there's a trespass, it's like it's something done to him personally because of the depth of her carrying
Interesting
his name.
point. You got to say that again for the viewers to hear that. I mean, and say that again. Say it again. Say it again.
Okay, when we get married.
When we get married,
we take on our husband's name. So when there's a trespass, it's as if something was really done to our husband.
Yes.
It's like someone did it personally to them. So it's a personal attack on them, not so much the wife, but the person whoever they trespass with did it to them.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic. And so, having said that, does not exonerate us from doing what we do or, you know, whatnot, but does it mean that it's worse for a man when a woman cheats than a woman when a man cheats, Doctor?
No, I don't think that there's any difference. I mean, I think that it's not
the impact, because you did allude to the fact that the residual impact for a man may be elongated. You didn't say that, but
the gravity of it is the same for both parties, but the way a man will exercise the weight of that dissatisfaction will be markedly different from the way a woman will exercise that dissatisfaction. So the weight of it, the power of it is identical. However, we choose to exercise.
How does all this play into the health and wealth of our families today? What is it that you would recommend to our viewers that are at the point of decision-making, planning to build healthy families in this postmodernistic age? the economy's bad, what would you say to them? What would you say to families?
Well, I would start by saying, every person has a place that they live, every person. And I think in a marriage, we don't have time to not only find out where that place is that they live, but to connect with them.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that that individual build connectors to that individual's heart in a way that integrates them into that heart. And when you do that, it makes the relationship vibrant because the person now sees that you care about something that's dear to me. And I would say, number one, create connectors. Number two, I would say realize that, change comes through conviction, you know? And you cannot force anyone to change. You can offer healthy communication. You can offer a parallel exchange, but you can't force them. So I would say, really try to say things and do things that are going to inspire someone to change and not demand or require that they change.
Yeah.
Wow.
In addition to that, we weren't taught. We didn't have good, healthy role models.
Yeah.
Plus, we weren't taught. We weren't trained on really how to work with someone who's different from us. We weren't taught. So I would suggest that you and your spouse sit down and really speak about what do you want in the marriage.
Yeah.
Write it out. Make a plan. Be intentional about it and work it. And the key, personally, that I can attest to, that I do know work, is living by example. Meaning, whatever I desire from my husband is to be that
Great point.
person.
Great point. And that's a great segue into how your relationship as a couple, the leaders of your home, how that example impacts your children and the greater family, because you said examples. So let's talk about that.
I know that our children, they see us as one. They really do. They really do.
But you guys are not the picture of harmony, but you discipline yourself to be.
Right. If our children come to us, or if one of them come to us and ask about something, one of the things that I'll say, if they're asking me, is, I'll speak to Dad about it and we'll let you know.
And same thing. I'll say, did you talk to Mom about it? So all of a sudden, they've got to sort of do a check with both, and they see that we're both on the same page.
You know what? We just hit a nerve. You guys got to come back, because I want to dig deeper into how children, because we have to break that cycle that you talked about. So we got 15 seconds left. What would you say to families that are trying to hold it together with these economic challenges that weigh on their relationships? What would you say? Talk to them, let them know.
Well, I would say, work out a plan with each other. It doesn't have to destroy the relationship. And be fair. Be fair. If you're the one that's working and your spouse isn't, be fair to your spouse. If your spouse was working and now he's not working, but he was the financial planner, still allow him to be that financial
That's good stuff.
planner.
That's good stuff. We got about 10 seconds left. What would you say, Doctor?
Have a vision. Have a vision for your family. Have a vision for your children. Have team and family meetings. We have family meetings where we sit and we discuss what's going on, the things in the home, and be structured in your approach to being there for your children. Be intentional.
Be intentional.
Right. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this time.
Thank you so much.
You guys are awesome,
Thank you, sir.
and your contribution to married couples and families is we can't even. You're doing God's work.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming and joining our town.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and is made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town coming to your home every week. Write to Joy in Our Town, Post Office Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.